But, Rob, we, of course, going to stick with the NFL. And the big news of the weekend, Russell Wilson.
I was shocked. I fell out of my bed. I was shocked when I woke up.
So what you think was going to happen with he signed for a year, 1 year, $1.2 million.
No, it's a great deal for Pittsburgh, Chris. I just was surprised that the Steelers, they normally don't do that. It just doesn't seem like it didn't look like they were going to do it. You remember they were saying they weren't interested in any of the quarterbacks that were out there. So I thought they weren't. I thought they were going to stick with their, Rudolph and Rudolph
Mason
the Red-Nosed,
Rudolph
the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Kenny Wilson Pickett or what. I just didn't know what they were going to do. I was surprised. It makes a lot of sense. They can't keep going 9-8 and celebrating that they finished over 500. Enough. How about a playoff? Can they mix in a playoff win? Chris, can they mix in some offense? Like, seriously. Like, that offense, what are they doing? They're just wasting time.
Nah, I thought it was a great. We talked about it.
Yeah, you liked it from day one.
This is what they should do. Absolutely, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, why wouldn't you do it?
And it doesn't cost you any money. 1.2, Chris, you got that in your ashtray in your car. You know what I'm saying? Chris has.
Well, that's the thing. It was a no-brainer, and I think that's why they went after Russell Wilson rather than a Kirk Cousins, rather than a Baker Mayfield. And even more so than a Justin Fields.
Oh, yeah, because that's going to cost you money.
Yeah. I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's no sweat off your back.
You wash your hands and move on to next year.
Absolutely. But the upside is great. And here's the thing, Rob. The Steelers were 10-7 last year. Made the playoffs with,
I don't know how,
arguably the worst quarterback play in the league. And Russell Wilson last year, and he wasn't spectacular. He was solid.
His numbers were decent.
His numbers were better, I think, than he actually played. But speaking of those numbers, Rob, 26 touchdown passes last year. That is twice as many as Kenny Pickett has thrown in his entire career, which is 24 starts. Think about that. That's the type of upgrade. And I know right now it's not even being reported, and I think, it's true that he hasn't been given the job, Russell Wilson. I think that's the right way to do it, is bring him in there and let him compete. But everybody in Pittsburgh, I'm sure, feels like Russell is going to win the job. And I am confident he's going to win the job. And Rob, I think this is a great situation for Russell Wilson. And to be honest, he needs to look at it like Baker Mayfield. I'm not the first to say this, but he needs to look at it like Baker Mayfield looked at Tampa. I got a 1-year tryout to show what I can do. And if Russell Wilson plays well, and I really think, Rob, for Russell Wilson, because I even saw people on TV today saying, if he plays well, he can get a big contract, the following year.
Good luck.
Well, sure, fine. But for Russell Wilson, I don't think this is just about money. He's made a ton of money.
No, he's playing for his career, Chris. And
I think he's playing for his legacy.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And we know legacy, Rob, is important to him because remember when all the MVP talk started, when he was still in Seattle? Remember when all the let Russ cook stuff started? That was all about legacy. No, I want to be like Tom Brady, right? All of that was legacy. And now that stuff is, that MVP, that let Russ cook, that's silenced. And all we've heard him talk about, at least according to reports, is he wants to win Super Bowls. Well, because forget all that individual stuff. I think he's rightfully been humbled.
Well, this is the other thing, too, you got to remember. I mean, he's a bad interception away from winning back-to-back Super Bowls, Chris. Like that, you're in the Hall of Fame. Like, seriously, that one bad pass, you're in the Hall of Fame. The only way Russell Wilson now is getting to the Hall of Fame is if he buys a ticket. Like, that's how much it's changed.
So do you think
Chris, do you disagree? It's changed big time.
It's definitely changed because I think he was viewed as a guy that was going to be a certain Hall of Famer. Part of that, at least when I said it, and I think with some others, it was based on, of course he's going to keep playing well, right? I mean, you didn't think he was going to fall off right away. But now that he did fall off, at least for a year and a half, say, now I think his Hall of Fame future is in jeopardy. And I would say, Rob, right now he probably isn't a Hall of Famer. Now, I do think he could change that. You brought up Kurt Warner last week. I had brought him up on First Things First before that. That is also, in addition to Baker Mayfield, who Russell Wilson should be looking at. Kurt Warner was terrible in New York with the Giants. Lost his job to Eli Manning.
I'll tell you, he was really bad. He really was bad.
He was bad for his first 3 years in Arizona. He was banged up, had a lot of injuries, but then he leads them to the Super Bowl, makes the Pro Bowl, and the rest is history. He ends up being a Hall of Famer.
See, but Russ is fighting other stuff too, Chris. He's fighting not only like has things fallen off for him personally, but now there's all this diva talk. There's this, he has his own office. He's kissing babies and shaking hands. He ain't really into the football like that. There's all of that about him now that's different from before. And I think you'll be the first one to admit this. When Seattle was deciding to make a change, you said you would keep Russell Wilson over Pete Carroll.
Yeah,
at that time, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
And the people from Seattle called up and said, I don't know. We've been watching.
He was the best quarterback. He is the best quarterback that franchise has ever had.
Right. But
he led them to their only Super Bowl.
But there was more to that because they kept the 70-year-old coach and let the quarterback go. And now it might be wind up being one of the most lopsided trades in the history of the NFL.
Well, on Denver's part, and they made it was bad, a trade. They gave up a lot for him in general, but then when you see that they threw that contract when they didn't even have to do it, a contract extension to him, and that made it even worse. But you're right that there are all these perceptions about
there's other stuff, right? Other stuff.
But again, if he goes out there and plays well and win, I'm not even saying win a Super Bowl.
No. I get if he plays better, right?
They're a deep playoff team. Then I think all that goes away.
But he's fighting an uphill battle.
Uphill battle. I think my point is, Rob, I still think it's mainly on the field. I think if he plays well and they get to the second round or maybe the AFC Championship game, and that's saying a lot. I mean, in the AFC especially. But if he plays well and they make the playoffs, I don't think you're going to be hearing about Russ the prima donna. Russ the PR machine. Russ is kissing babies. I think focus will be more on him coming back and resurrecting his career. And
God forbid that it doesn't happen.
Well, if he can't play,
you know what I mean? And in Pittsburgh with the defense that they have, and say they don't, they were 10-7, Chris, and they slipped back to 8-9 and don't make the playoffs, and Russ doesn't play well. Now you got a real problem.
No, if he doesn't play well in Pittsburgh, he's washed. He's washed. You got George Pickens as a receiver. Deontay Johnson's a good receiver. They may trade him, but if they're either going to have him or another pretty good receiver. Pat Freiermuth is a good tight end. They got 2 good running backs. They got, as you mentioned, a great defense, a great coach. If he can't be productive with Pittsburgh, he's washed. And it's time to hang it up. And probably, Rob, he'd be forced to hang it up, or at least hang up being a starter. And so I think I think he's playing for his legacy. And that's why I think he'll fly right and straighten up because, Rob, he's lost a lot these last 2 years.
Oh, no, it's unbelievable. Right? The fall from where he was. And again, we go back to Seattle and the interception in the end zone. Like Chris, you put yourself in rarefied air. You win 2 Super Bowls. Like
now, everybody with 2 Super Bowls isn't in the Hall of Fame.
No, I'm just no. But I'm just saying.
He had 9 Pro Bowl appearances.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He would be in with that. I mean, I do think that. You're right. There are a couple guys who aren't in. It's not automatic. Who am I thinking of? Who's the quarterback? Jim Plunkett with the Raiders. He's not in. He has 2 Super Bowls.
How do you think Wilson will play there?
I don't know. It's a good question. Because I don't know what offense are they running there. Like I don't know.
They got Arthur. Remember Arthur? Who they brought the guy, the former coach in Atlanta, is now their
OC
offensive coordinator. Yeah.
So, I mean, he definitely bounced back last year from 2 years ago where he was awful when he first got to Denver.
Arthur Smith, yeah.
Arthur Smith. But you remember, Chris, he was awful. And he bounced
right.
back last year.
He was okay last year.
Yeah.
He wasn't great, but if he gives them that type of play. Now here's the thing, and you mentioned it, they were 10-7 with some of the worst quarterback play in the league.
Brutal.
That division, my goodness. It was tough last year. Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. Cleveland, which just added Jerry Jeudy, who's a nice number 2 to Amari Cooper as a receiver. And they got Deshaun Watson. We'll see what he plays like. And then you got Pittsburgh, which is always competitive, now with a more than serviceable quarterback. My gosh. The AFC, Rob, those 4 teams are all legit. You got Kansas City and the Chargers, legit, right? You've got Houston, which we think is legit. We think they were more than a one-year wonder. And Buffalo,
I got to see more of Houston, only because there's no surprise anymore. Everybody be waiting for them after the year they put together. That's always the hard to do it again when people weren't having any expectations. A new coach, rookie quarterback, you know what I mean? And you're kind of like, okay, well, who's Houston? They're not that good. And then they started beating people. And now they got the tape, and now they're going to be looking at it. So that's going to be a team that I'm going to watch closely, Chris, to see did they really make that move, or did they catch people sleeping, and now people have adjusted to them. So I'm not sure Houston will be in the mix. But last year, if they follow suit, then people in Houston should have a reason to be excited.
Well, they definitely got to prove that they can do it again. But
right.
I don't think the tape and all that. I mean, Cleveland had tape. And they gave up 45 points in the playoffs. Houston.
No,
that was good earlier in the year, but eventually teams realized, okay, Houston's legit.
Yeah, but I've seen teams that have broken through and then fall back. I mean, that's
that's what I'm saying. They got to prove it's the second they can do it again, but I don't think it's not, to me, it's not going to be, they've been figured out. I mean, teams are smart.
Yeah, but
they don't have to see them, watch a whole season to figure them out. They can see what they're doing.
Yeah, but they have time to make adjustments in the offseason as well to figure out. That's all I'm saying. It's adjustments, and that's what good coaches and good teams do. Like, well, okay, he does this very well. This is what we need to do to kind of neutralize that. You're not going to stop the guy. The guy's a talented quarterback, and I'm not saying they're going to get shut down and shut out every game, but I'm just saying it's an adjustment.